All right. Well, hi, Pernille.
Hi, Meta.
Well,
So
thank
good,
you.
so good
Yeah,
to see you again.
good to see you too. Thank you for your willingness to have this interview with me um, on the topic of trauma and
The
the
elephant in the room.
the elephant in the room. And well, I'm really looking forward to whatever comes up.
Mhm.
And I'm really also looking forward to dive in the topic and for you to present what the track that we're going to have at SAYIT is going to be about.
Right.
So
Yes.
you suggested that title. What is that elephant in the room?
Well, it's like there are certain things that we just don't talk about in our close relationships, uh, or certain things we don't ask of our partner, or we don't do, or and this is the elephant in the room that in those kinds of relationships with an intimate partner, with a sibling, with a parent, that we just know where the minefields are and we don't go there, which is sometimes getting in the way of a more alive and more wonderful relationship we could have with these people. It might come with resentment or like old ancient feelings of anger, of disappointment and stuff, and we just don't want to talk about it because we've tried that before and see what happened, and then it's just like it just takes up some of our heart space with this person.
And what makes it an elephant?
um well, because it's a reaction that's much stronger than the topic itself. Like you ask your partner, where did you put my laptop, for instance, or where did you put my tablet? And then your partner gets that certain strict tone of voice, like, why don't you find your things yourself? You always think that it's me who makes your stuff disappear or something like that. I mean, this is really a very trivial example, but that there is something in the topic is can be so mundane, really. Like,
Mhm.
where's this? Where's that? How was your day today? How did you sleep? How I slept? Well, what do you think? And suddenly there is just sort of a volcano underneath, or coldness underneath, or it turns into silence. So something turns, just it's like a cloud goes, it comes in front of the sun suddenly, and it can happen both ways. So it's not always the same partner who releases this reaction to the other one.
Yeah.
So that's why it's an elephant, because it's so much bigger than what is actually in the room.
So what I hear is that somehow the trivial and mundane sentences can become a problem. It's
Yeah.
it's let's say that the reaction is much bigger than we expect it to be.
Yes, either that, or depending on what kind of person you are and what kind of relationship this is. If it's like a relationship where emotions can be expressed, or where it can be a bit dramatic sometimes, this might be what happens. If it's not, then it might just turn into silence. And there's just this sense of like a cool breeze going through the room, and it's really not so pleasant. You don't really
Okay.
know what it is.
And what does it have to do with trauma?
Yes, I mean, these are some examples, but what it actually is about is that there's certain that we have certain patterns. We all have traumas in our life, and they have provoked or made us make certain patterns in order to avoid that traumatic thing. And the patterns become the problematic thing. It's not the trauma itself might have happened long time ago. I mean, an emotional trauma is basically when our ability to cope is exceeded in a certain situation and we don't get support. So we've all experienced this many times, especially when we were small, because our ability to cope was not so big back then, but it still happens for us. And then we are left in this sort of stuck or hopeless state. And this is the state where we might tell ourselves, I'll never do that again. I will never be the first one to reach out after an argument with my partner. Or I'll never trust that person again. Or I'll never trust anybody again. Or I'll never take the risk again of expressing myself. So those kinds of things are reactions we all have, and there is a direct line to the traumas we've experienced, and they also, I mean, this is sort of, it's not so okay. I don't need to sing a song in the presence of everybody every day, or it's not so important. But when it comes to these close relationships where we need to cope every day or quite often, and there is perhaps an even growing minefield of things we cannot talk about, or where there is an allergic reaction to it, then it inhibits our life energy and our life expression. And
Okay.
it doesn't have to be like that.
And how can nonviolent communication ease that situation?
Yeah,
Can it?
so yes, it can, and it also needs a special attention even for NVC people. But what I really love about NVC is that we learn to make ourselves really clear, and by speaking in a sort of neutral language, where if we want to address something to someone, that we start with the observation. We don't assume a lot of things. We don't judge the other person. But we tell how this thing that we're talking about, how it affects us as people on an emotional level. And we link that emotional response to the needs we have, needs that all people always have, like social needs, needs for self-expression, needs for belonging, all those kinds of wonderful needs. And that makes it less provocative for the other partner to hear. And then we can ask for a simple gesture, for a conversation, for a thing we ask the other person to do for us. That sort of reduces the tension level tremendously. And even when we practice this is a language and a communication style that is absolutely learnable. We can, it doesn't come by itself. It is like learning a language. And as we start exploring how this language sounds when it comes out of our own mouth, then it becomes easier. And still there are these very close relationships where for some reason we can't make ourselves ask for what we really want, for instance. So we need to have an awareness of where trauma adds an accent to it that is needed to decipher in some way, so that we can get to express ourselves in our fullness without it being on the cost of somebody else's expression.
All right. So is it that learning the language of nonviolent communication helps with the self-awareness to recognize in the moment, or maybe in the retrospective, to understand what's happening inside you, or what was happening inside you, what provoked it, and it helps you communicate that awareness to the other person, so they don't feel attacked, they don't feel guilty, they don't feel whatever they could feel.
Yeah, at least we have reduced the likelihood that this will happen. I mean, there are never any guarantees, but we can sort of de-escalate our own the potential violence in our own language without giving in on what we really want to communicate. That is the great promise of NVC, and both you and I know that it's actually possible. That even controversial topics, it's possible to talk about them when we come from our own experience rather than telling the other person what's wrong with them. And having worked with trauma for the last 10 years, I know that sometimes we just don't have this freedom of choice of expressing ourselves, because something gets in the way. So that we all know this the situation where we want to say something to somebody and then suddenly we forget the words or we get totally blank. This is a trauma reaction, and the trauma reactions sort of rule us from the subconscious level. So we don't really notice that happens unless we sit down and start wondering about what happened in that situation. And that's what we'll do in my intensive at SAYIT. We'll start wondering about the lack of choice we sometimes experience in certain situations.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, like, what are we gonna do at, how is your track gonna look like? You're
Yeah,
gonna have 7 days continuously about trauma, about that elephant. So can you present a bit, what is it gonna be about?
yeah,
What are we gonna do?
yeah. So it will be very participatory. There will be a few lectures on how our nervous system operates so that we understand that a trauma reaction is a biological mechanism. I've just heard a podcast this afternoon where several women had been exposed to violent experiences at a certain massage therapist. And the question that sort of turned up again and again and again, why didn't you tell him to stop? Because we can't when we're traumatized. This is such a typical thing, and this will be the first level of exploration. What is it that we sometimes would love we could do where we hold ourselves back? And then, after understanding what a traumatic reaction in our nervous system is, we'll find a way where we can actually, in a very kind and gentle way, access that scared, frozen part within ourselves and sort of release the trauma bond so that piece by piece we get to reclaim our freedom of choice.
Oh, that sounds lovely. So I get that you will present a lot about, let's say, theory. So we will understand it, but we will have a lot of opportunity to actually practice
Oh yeah.
our own examples, our own cases, and actually have the experience of how to deal with what we are carrying in, and learn how to slowly start resolving it.
Yeah, and this is a lifelong process, and um, I'll teach a few processes so that the participants on this track, they can form pairs. That's what I really encourage them to do after the training, and they can meet every second week, and whether it's online or physically, and practice these processes in this way, sort of gradually. It's almost like finding those jigsaw puzzle pieces that have been missing, and together it's possible to find these pieces and then complete the whole picture of a liberated inner experience.
Yeah, and there comes, like, to claim your power back. Like, this is
Totally. Yeah, that's it.
reclaiming your power, because I have a sense that sometimes trauma can make us feel so powerless.
Oh yes, that's what it does. Yes.
All
Yeah.
right, well,
So it's about reclaiming our power. Yeah.
oh, well, that sounds great.
And
I,
and and this is something I'm totally passionate about, because we really need people to be in their power in this world with all the crises and the difficult times that we're facing. We need people in power. We don't need people to just sit and wait for somebody else to clear everything.
and to save them, to save
Yeah.
us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
we need to do that ourselves. Well,
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to your track. I think I already made the decision that I am going to be a part of it, because I'm also passionate about this topic. And I'm really happy that you offered it, because we talked about it last year, that you were also a trainer at SAYIT, and you talked a lot about trauma. So I'm really glad that you offered this topic this year. And I would just like to hear from you, what are you looking forward do in this retreat?
Yeah.
What is it? You're coming back again. Like, why?
Yes. Yeah. First of all, thank you for inviting me again. I am so happy and flattered and just joyful about having this opportunity once again. And what I enjoyed so much last year, which is what I'm looking forward to this year, is really the community. I mean, of course, I love teaching. I love what happens in the classes, and what happens is it's an expression of the community we are building, and it's also outside of the classroom. What happens in the trainers community, what happens when we are sitting everybody in the big group, that there is this sense of weaving community and really seeing each other's beauty, and just having an experience for a week of really being able to let go of defenses and simply show ourselves as who we are to each other.
Yeah, thank you. Not only inside the classrooms, but 24/7, right?
Yeah, 24/7. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. And
Thank you. I mean, I'm really the one to thank you for organizing the whole thing. It's I'm so happy that you're pulling it together.
yeah, I'm happy as well. Is there anything else you would like to, or you would like to advise or suggest to people when they're coming? Like, how can they prepare for 1 week of this really in-depth NVC
Yeah.
exploration? Is there something that
Yes.
you would suggest them?
Yeah. So for people who have had very little or zero exposure to nonviolent communication, it would be a good idea to orient yourself. And there is a lot of free stuff on YouTube and other places, and I guess they can probably access you for suggestions,
Yeah.
or me if they write to me. With the NVC Academy, there's beginners courses that is accessible for free. So that would be a good idea. If you're past, or for those who are past the first stages of learning NVC, grab a friend and bring them with you so that you have this together when you come home. It can be a little lonely sometimes to come home after a training and your world just transformed and you're so inspired, but people around you are still the same. That can be a bit shocking. So grabbing a friend and bring them with you, that would be a great thing to do.
I so totally agree with you. Yeah, to experience this with somebody that you can carry this home with. Yeah, that's good. That's a really nice suggestion. Well, thank you, Pernille. And I also would like to say that I really appreciate that you responded with yes. And I'm really looking forward to spending more time with you and the trainers group that is going to be pretty much the same as last year. And we enjoyed it so much. And I can't wait for us to meet again.
Yeah, wonderful. Yes, this is a place I'm so happy to belong to. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so see you then.
See you then.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for our conversation.
Thank you, Meta. Yeah. Bye.